Welcome, friends, to the third business meeting session of South Central Yearly Meeting 2023. We have a reading from a State of the Meeting report.
Val Live Oak, Friends Meeting of San Antonio. Reading from the State of the Meeting report of Fayetteville Friends Meeting. The Fayetteville Friends Meeting met in person and on Zoom in 2022. In our worship, Spirit illuminated our silence, and we valued the vocal ministry that spoke into the silence. Everything we do in the world comes from our meeting for worship. Having a first day school was a joy, and it energized the meeting. There is a strong sense of community in the meeting, which was fostered through worship sharing, potlucks, outreach to newcomers, work on the Omni Garden, Healing Circle, clearness committees, 2 nature field trips with adults and children, and our continued connection to the refugees we sponsor. Outreach into the wider community was extensive. Members attended quarterly and yearly gatherings, with Kathleen involved in planning for yearly meetings, marching in the Pride Parade, attending Quorum Court and City Council to advocate for the homeless and alternatives to jail expansion, wrote letters to the editors and postcards urging voting. Maya wrote a regular column for the newspaper about Quakers and Quakerism. Shelley met with Senator Bozeman to point out the impact of climate change on the poor. Karen and Richard helped distribute food for the poor at a historic Black church. Support of cooperative emergency outreach. We offered a peace scholarship to graduating seniors, donated money to Ukraine and tornado relief, and had a plant giveaway. We were much saddened by the death of Fran Pearson, a lifelong friend, and the loss of the Carillon, which was so beautifully produced for many years by Tina Coffin, was a true act of love, and its loss is inestimable. Thank you, Tina.
So I realized in my haste yesterday, I forgot to introduce the clerk's table. So, hi, I'm Bill Wilkinson from Friends Meeting of San Antonio. Rich Carl from Spring Worship Group, right? And Jessica Archett from Austin. We also have some guests. So some I recognize, some I don't. So Jacob Flowers from American Friends Service Committee. Maxie is, his daughter is declined to attend business meetings, so she's out with the youth. Let's see, I didn't see Nova online. It's Kendall Cochran. Kendall's from FCNL. So he'll be circulating around and meeting people. And this is your first yearly meeting, is that what I understand? Okay. So, and from Waco originally? Oh. Cool. So, yay. And Susan Navi, also with FCNL. Is Jerry Knudsen here? And I don't see Greg, our keynote. I saw him at lunch. Oh, he's with kids this morning. Cool. Okay. So that is visitors. Did I miss any visitors? Okay. I'm still looking for an epistles committee. I have Will King and Kimberly Nelson who agreed to serve. I'd like to get one or two other people to join them. So I hope you'll consider that ministry and let me know if that's something you're led to support. We did not hear from Friends General Conference, Texas Impact, or Austin 10 Circuit de la Frontera yesterday. I do not see any of those reps in the room, so I'm assuming we'll advance those to another business meeting session. So on this agenda, yeah, I do. So we do have a breaking news. So Tom's not here. I saw him check in this morning, but Tom Ivash is here. He hasn't been able to attend in a couple of years. Of course, last year was the first year back after COVID. But anyway, Tom attended his first SCYM in 1963. So this is his 60th year coming to SCYM. He was 2. Seriously, he was 2. So anyway, if you see Tom Ivash, please give him your wishes, and when he does come to business meeting, we'll certainly lift that up. So pretty fun. Okay, so on this morning's agenda, I have a report from American Friends Service Committee, Faith and Practice Committee, the Archivist, Youth Program Support, Yearly Meeting Worship Committee, the Communications Committee, the Technology Committee, Yearly Meeting Planning Committee, and the Post Hoc Procedurals Manual Committee of 1. I think. Bill, are you the only member of that committee right now? So, yes. We now know how many Quakers it takes to create a committee. Okay, so with that, what I'd like to do is we kind of have a unique presentation for AFSC. Kristen Brink is on Zoom and is going to do the report from our representatives, and then Jacob is going to talk a little bit about kind of what's going on. It's like Kristen, I think, phrased it as, I'll give the facts, you give the story. So Jacob will be storytelling, and Kristen will do her thing. So Kristen, if you're ready, you can go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Yeah, so I get the boring stuff, and then Jacob gets to be the fun one. So my boring report here for SCYM AFSC representatives. AFSC corporate meeting will be held April 13th through the 15th of 2023. The meeting will be held in person in Philadelphia in sessions titled Connecting for Lasting Change. A report on the actual proceedings will be done after the meeting has been held. For the 14th, the keynote speaker is Ambassador Andrew Young. On 4/15/23, there's a panel discussion. Workshops this year will be titled the following: Planting the Seeds for People and the Planet, Light in Gaza. I'm hearing an echo of myself, sorry. North Korea Assistance and Advocacy, AFSC Engagement on a Divided Peninsula, SCYM and AFSC lost Rex Friend this year. The committee would like to remember him for his service. Alex McDonald was added to the committee. Respectfully submitted, Kirsten Brink.
Friends have any questions for Kristen? Thanks, Kristen. Jacob, you're up.
Thank you, friends. It's really good to be with you. First, just want to start off by thanking Kirsten and Alex for serving as corporation representatives from SCYM. Hope to see both in Philadelphia next week. My name is Jacob Flowers. I'm the regional director for the U.S. South for the American Friends Service Committee. I'm based out of our Atlanta, Georgia office, which is the South Regional Office. And haven't been able to be here in person in about 3 years, so it's good to be with friends. So I get a little bit of the story today, and just cut me off with the cane when you're ready. So really excited about the corporation meeting this year and having Ambassador Young there to introduce folks and to tell his story. As many are aware, the story of AFSC is that we were created by Quakers at a time of war fever in World War I as a way to help Quakers and allies live the peace testament. This was dangerous work at the time. Conscientious objectors were jailed, threatened, fired, and ostracized. In the face of public hostility and in a time of mounting humanitarian need, AFSC was designed to be a bold and vibrant display of Quaker faith in action. Over the last 106 years, the Quaker experiment that is AFSC evolved to be a unique organization. We now have real, authentic, deep relationships with communities across the U.S. and around the world. It is our honor to serve alongside these communities, Quaker and not. We connect them. We help advocate and conduct research to promote their insights and experiences into global policy conversations. We foster safe spaces for healing and reconciliation, and together we speak truth to power. Today, we share some important ways that Quakers are connecting with AFSC for lasting change. Around the world, many have had concerns for those fleeing the needless war in Ukraine and fleeing violence, repression, and poverty around the world. AFSC is working with European Quakers to help displaced people from Ukraine and has programs around the world caring for refugees, migrants in places as far apart as Denver, Colorado, and the Dadaab camp near the Kenya-Somalia border. We send out our deepest gratitude for friends' support of these efforts to help displaced people heal, seek safe homes, integrate into new communities, and rebuild their lives. We've heard from friends that AFSC should engage more on climate justice, and we have responded. One way to focus on improving our climate and economic justice is by building food justice. Where we get our food and how corporations profit from it affects our health, the health of our planet, our economies, and the lives of farmers, migrants, and many others. As Congress is considering a new farm bill, we are sharing the insights from affected communities. Friends can join our efforts for food justice by visiting our website and adding your voice to the debate. We're delighted to report that the first year of Emerging Leaders for Liberation, a nonviolent social justice activism program for young adults connected to Friends institutions and AFSC communities, was a huge success. Young people, many of them from Quaker colleges and schools, learned vital organizing skills and then put them to work on a project in their communities. You can see more at the ELL section of our website, afsc.org. Last year, we also published the North Star, a framework for healing justice beyond militarized policing and prisons. Since then, staff have had the pleasure of talking with many meetings about prison abolition and alternatives to promote real community safety. We have had many friends attend our community safety beyond policing discussions, which have been held monthly online. We are revamping and continuing those webinars and have launched our Think Twice pledge. This pledge reminds people of things they can do instead of calling the police. And out of self-interest, my work is really based here in the South region. And in the last 3 years since I've been able to speak personally to friends, there's been a lot of developing work. In the last year, we have expanded a restorative justice project statewide in West Virginia, continued building a successful communities, sustainable communities model in historically Black communities in New Orleans, continued efforts to close immigrant detention centers in South Florida, launched a new model of affordable housing creation utilizing community land trusts in Atlanta, and completed a deep listening project in North Carolina that is helping us launch new and exciting work in that state. These are just a few of the efforts where AFSC and friends are making a difference. We want this year to be a year of renewal with our Quaker connections. We have liaisons now in more than 260 meetings and churches and want to make sure we have connections and communications with more. And we are talking with friends, schools, and organizations about partnerships to promote our mutual peace and justice concerns. You can see these activities and more ways to get involved on our Friends Engaged section of our website. Our staff and volunteer will be visiting meetings and be present at FGC and the FUM Triennial, hoping to talk with as many Quakers as possible about ways we can work together. And I would just personally add that, you know, we're really seeking to get an AFSC liaison in every monthly meeting throughout the United States. And if there are friends interested in being a liaison, it's not a big lift. It is basically to be a funnel of information, both from your meeting to AFSC and from AFSC to your meeting. We have a table set up in the staff lounge where we have a lot of materials from our programs, as well as descriptions of all of the programs that we're doing here in the South region. You can also find out more information about ways to get engaged there. And then today at 4:15, I'll be leading a workshop on our new apartheid-free communities campaign, which is seeking every meeting in the United States to take a pledge to oppose apartheid as it exists notably in Israel and Palestine, but also as it exists in many places throughout the world. So I hope that you'll join us this afternoon to learn more about that project and campaign. And I'll be around throughout the weekend. Look forward to connecting with friends, answering your questions, and getting to know you more. Thank you.
Any questions for Jacob? Thank you. Do we have a report from Faith and Practice? John? Do we have a report from Faith and Practice?
Yes, John Kaufman, Little Rock Friends, there is a report. I just need to pick it out of this. And I think this has found its way into Liz Yates's hands. A copy. You have it, okay. This is the committee report from the yearly meetings Faith and Practice Committee. The committee began the year with 5 members, a reduction from the 8 members it enjoyed only 2 years earlier. The size of the committee has always been of influence in terms of its productivity. Interesting, perhaps, but given the fluctuations in size that the group has gone through, it makes sense. One thing for certain, everyone who serves or has served on the committee has been of invaluable service. 3 years prior, the committee had chosen to meet more frequently. It used to meet at yearly meeting sessions and hopefully once or twice a year more in person and as way would open. One thing was for sure, it always meant traveling to Texas. Due to the emergence of the Zoom meeting alternative, the committee wisely accepted the advice of its members and agreed to meet monthly. This was a right step. It too contributed to productivity and to members' capacity to invest in the committee's historic charge. Largely through these commitments did we arrive at a point in 2021 when we announced that we would have a first draft of the document, or at least of those sections that had been prepared by then. We would have that first draft ready for inspection by yearly meeting 2023. Next, a final quote-unquote draft will be readied when all sections have been written and are available for discernment. Then, at that time, the committee will seek the yearly meeting's approval of that document, but not this time. This is the first draft. Now, with draft one complete, our goal is to use it to receive essential feedback from SCYM members and attenders, so that any changes and amendments we might make in the text will reflect the insights and wishes of broad sections of our members and attenders. This is where we find ourselves today. This is where we find ourselves today at this yearly meeting. The committee is grateful for the ongoing support of the yearly meeting through this all. With appreciation to each past and current member of the committee, current participants are Leada Dietz, Live Oak, Jane Hauser, Live Oak, Danielle Evans, Fort Worth, Dallas, Mac Lehman, New Orleans, and John Coffin, Little Rock. So you have the report, and I just want to reiterate one thing. This line. This is where we find ourselves today. This is where we find ourselves this weekend. Tomorrow there will be a public meeting just before noon on Saturday, where we'll have one more chance. Well, I shouldn't say one more. There are going to be a lot more chances, but one chance when we're in person to talk about the draft. There is in the hall next to the registrar's area, there is a display about the first draft, and thanks to Jane Hauser and Edwin, I'm sure they've put together 10 or 15 actually hard copies of this first draft. And I think you're encouraged if you didn't bring your computer with you, because it's online, as you know, you all know it's online, right? That word didn't get out. Okay, great. We worked at that, and I hope you even heard about it from your monthly meeting clerk, because we did send them a drill about this too, and we asked them to pass that on to membership. Did your clerks do that? Oh, great. They all get passing grades. That is really super, and we appreciate it. But at this workshop, at this forum tomorrow, then there'll be a chance to talk about the content, whether you like the content or what parts of it you really like, and perhaps which parts you think need to be redone. Have we left something out? Does some portion of this reflect being led by the Spirit? What would you like us to do over? Now, we won't hear from everybody, but we'll be able to hear from a lot of people, and this will be really important for the committee. This is what we're calling essential feedback. Otherwise, you can send copies of your comments, you can write about it, you can do whatever, but the important thing is to keep the material, the information, the communication, to keep that going. It's going to be so helpful and valuable. And your committee that's been around for over 10 years will really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions for John? So yeah, the forum will be tomorrow in here. Confirming. Yes, in here at 10:45 in the morning. Is there a report from the archivist? Howard?
Good morning, friends. Howard Hawhey, Friends Meeting of Boston. And this will be a very brief report. A written version has been made available to the clerks. First of all, the archivists, we are co-archivists, and by the nature of where the records are stored, one of the requirements is you have to be in Austin. So at the moment, I'm the one co-archivist, and we're looking for someone else from Austin. The archivist did not receive any special requests for research over the last year, but we remain open to that. The last time we did that, I think, was for Fayetteville. We did some research to help them out with some questions they had about the early history of their meeting. The other piece of information I have for you is that we got a communication from Swarthmore, from the Friends Archive Service in Swarthmore, and I think they were delicately reminding us that they didn't have anything since 2018 in terms of our proceedings. So we're looking into that. I think there might be a misunderstanding because they typically work with physical records, and I believe since 2018 we haven't necessarily been producing hard copies of our proceedings. So we'll be in communication with them. It might also be some institutional memory loss at Swarthmore because the long-term person who's in charge of that has retired, and I received the communication from the new person. So we will sort that out. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Howard? Thank you. Thanks. Yes.
Hi, good morning, friends. Will King, Baton Rouge Friends Meeting. I have a question for the archivist. It just hit me. So this only came about because the small liberal arts college where I attended in Alabama is in danger of closing. So in the highly unlikely event that Swarthmore faces such closing issues, are the archives backed up somewhere else?
That's always a possibility, of course. Swarthmore doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. This isn't Swarthmore College itself. It's housed at Swarthmore, and I believe the archives have their own separate endowment and that sort of thing. But I don't know what would happen if Swarthmore physically closed, where they would go. These are paper archives. When you go online, you can actually go and look at a catalog of what they've got, and it says SCYM information is in box number X, so I'm not sure that there is anywhere else they're kept. That's a good question, though, and we'll note that, and we will we'll ask them and maybe get that information out.
Thanks, Will. Anything? Okay, is there a report from you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there any effort being made to digitize the paper copies that we have?
I can speak to that. We stopped printing copies of our proceedings in 2019 and went completely online. So I don't know about the backup, but since 2019, all of our proceedings are online and digitized.
So I think the question was focused on the existing boxes. And are they scanning those boxes into a digital format?
Yes, I can find that out as well. Thank you. I know I've heard the discussion, but I'm not sure how far it has progressed.
Lois?
Okay, I'm doing the archivist in Fort Worth. Should I put all the meeting minutes and everything on a DBS drive to send to like yearly meeting and to Swarthmore? I'm a little confused.
Swarthmore, the Swarthmore Archive does accept materials from individual monthly meetings. So if you want to do that, I can get you in touch with who at Swarthmore would be doing that.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, Lois, because there are, it's monthly meetings may not realize that you can archive your minutes at the Swarthmore Archive as a monthly meeting. So, as those come together, again, remember sending a bunch of paper boxes at one point in time, or boxes with paper. And now there's some method of being able to get it there electronically. I don't know what the preferred method is. But meetings do have that ability. Scott?
Thank you. Liz Yates says that they are scanning as quickly as they can. And they do want monthly meeting archives as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if I got everything Liz was trying to say in chat.
Thank you. And for those of you who haven't experienced this before, I had done a project scanning about 15 years of records in an agency that I work with. Probably 50 file cabinets worth. It was $45,000. So it's expensive. So once we got caught up to the extent we could, we switched to, hey, when staff has time, could you please get this thing scanned away if it had to be a hard copy, because we had some things that was the only way we got them from outside sources, so we had to scan everything eventually. But it is a very costly proposition.
And Liz Yates also says they will file the monthly meeting archives with the SCYM archives.
Okay, so both places, SCYM and Swarthmore, if you have the opportunity. Thank you. I feel like that's the longest conversation we've ever had about archives. Cool. Okay. Is there a youth program support report? I don't see Ann. I would have assumed Ann was going to give it. Okay, we'll hold that in advance. YM Worship Committee report. Liz?
Good morning, Liz Wolf, Dallas Monthly Meeting. I sent our written report ahead. There are 4 of us actively working, Neil, myself, right there, and Galia. It's some of it's about worship and some of it's sort of a logistical puzzle. So I appreciate folks who stepped up to be home group leaders, self-organized, the reading of the Passion. I think the worship support happens at yearly meeting because of everyone's participation. I think I have anything else to say. Happy to take any questions, comments, or desires.
Thank you. Pardon the texting, I'm tracking down clerks who aren't here to give their report. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, is there a communications committee report? I know Liz is online. She gave herself away. I don't know if I don't know if she's prepared to give a report online.
I don't know if the group is prepared to hear me online. I'm in the dining room. So maybe can you postpone that, Bill?
I can.
I'm changing communications right now.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and then next is a technology committee report. Yes, I do want to lift up that, you know, if you kind of notice, we have friends who gratefully serve in multiple roles. So Kevin King would normally give the technology committee report, but he's also the on-site coordinator. Ann Collins would give the youth program report, but she's apparently with kids. You know, Liz is trying to make sure that all the communications are pushed out. You know, so anyway, so when your friendly local nominating committee approaches you, you know, please, you know, give your thoughtful consideration to how you might be able to help. With that, since I'm clearly vamping at this point, Susan and Kendall, would you like to lift up anything around FCNL? And so we heard the representative report yesterday, but perhaps you can give us a little bit more on what's going on with FCNL. And Susan's in development, so it's not like she's ever going to turn down an opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for inviting us up, Clerk. As was mentioned, there was a report delivered on FCNL's activities, but I would love to just highlight maybe a couple of things that are currently happening. Very recently, just a couple of weekends ago, FCNL hosted our annual spring lobby weekend, and this was a young adult focused lobbying conference that happens every year. about 350 young folks flew to DC, and we're lobbying on the issue of violence interruption, which we very much see as an extension of justice reform, of alternatives to policing, of racial justice, economic justice. So that was an exciting recent development. Also, over the last year, FCNL has continued to lobby on ending U.S. support for the war in Yemen. That was the focus of our advocacy teams, which we know there's some fabulous folks in Texas and in other states doing some lobbying on that last year. And this year's focus of advocacy teams is on supporting funding for peace building accounts at the federal level. So we're very excited to see that work continuing this year and are grateful to all the folks amongst South Central Yearly Meeting that are involved in that and are happy to be chatting about that more at lunch today, where we'll be hosting an interest group. So do please feel free to find either myself or Kendall, and thank you very much for having us.
Is there a report from ad hoc procedures? Bill, do you have any?
Bill Sweet, San Antonio. Really from San Antonio this calendar year, we transferred our membership to San Antonio after having lived there for 9 years. I apologize for this lengthy report, and clerk, I will entertain questions if there are any afterwards, if anybody's still awake. The few responses to the April and May 2022 call for updates were incorporated and presented to representative meeting November 2022. No further efforts were made to acquire additional updates. Given that the draft Faith and Practice presented at these annual sessions incorporates portions of the procedures manual, further revision will wait until either an explicit request to update some portion is made, or until it is clear what portions of the procedures manual, if any, are not included in the Faith and Practice, but remain useful. Yes. Okay.
Any questions for Bill? John?
I just want to make clear that the Faith and Practice Committee is aware of this situation. We have not been in close contact recently with Bill and his committee, but we're certainly aware of the situation, and it will play itself out in the next couple of years for sure. But that there will be some reasonable give and take on those issues. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Bill. So anticipating that, you know, we've kind of changed the way that we do reports. Over the last several years, friends used to read their reports, and now it's kind of like, well, post your report and give us the highlights. And so what's happened is, in a lot of ways, we run out of business, which Quakers are often very sad about. And of course, in this case, like I said, we're kind of juggling a few things. So, and we do have ministry and care and finance and peace and justice who are continuing to meet here at Green Family Camp, and we'll have reports tomorrow because they need to do some additional work over the course of today. That being said, anticipating the possibility, what I'd like to do is, if we do have friends who are able to give their reports, who are, Howard's tracking down Ann, and I've been tracking down Denise and Kevin and all of that. So as they come, we'll have them go ahead and present their report. However, in the meantime, one of the things that we were talking about is that when we have space, to kind of open up a discussion around what does South Central Yearly Meeting look like going forward? The pandemic clearly changed a few things. We do have some shifting demographics going on. We do have, movements to episodic volunteerism rather than, a 3-year commitment to a committee. All of those things, and what's our purpose? Is our purpose to gather? Is our purpose to know each other in that which is eternal? Is somehow who we are, what we are, how we do it, when we meet, has it changed? Is it different than it was from when Tom Ivash started attending in 1963? We don't talk about that. We tend to say, how do we support ourselves today? But what does a future view kind of look like? So we wanted to give friends maybe an opportunity to kind of maybe lift up some of the things that are rattling around in heads around these kinds of things. We're all kind of talking about it. Many of us at our monthly meetings are, see the same people over and over and over again, having to do the things over and over and over again. And we wonder what's going to happen to our monthly meeting? What's going to happen to these other institutions? I remember when I was on the AFSC board, the whole discussion around laying down the material support, the clothing stuff. Well, we've always done clothing, and yet we're hearing from the international community that when you're doing relief work, it's better to work, in the country where the clothing is being created, where all of those things are happening, rather than engaging in these huge warehouses and shipping. But it took several years for us to get through that discussion, because it was such an important part of the early life of AFSC and for many years thereafter. So those are the types of things that we're kind of talking about. So really just kind of an open thing here. We're not going to solve any problems today. None of this is intended to do anything other than, what do you think? What concerns you? What concerns you about the future of Quakerism, of South Central, of your own monthly meeting. We know that organizations have life cycles. What does it look like for us? So just kind of want to open it up for consideration. Ask that we leave a little bit of space in between remarks. And we'll pepper that with reports as they become available. But you know, really interested in just kind of hearing where everybody is. Gladys.
That's a really good question. And this is just such the perfect forum to open that up. And a couple of things come to my mind. One is the way, you know, John referenced the impact that Zoom has had on the way our committees can actually connect with each other. And Peace and Justice is seeing that very same dynamic. It's really changed the way we relate to each other, but the fact that we can have a Zoom meeting every month rather than getting together once a year at yearly meeting. And it really has made us a team in a way that we were not before. And it's really, that could be happening in other committees that operate that, you know, I haven't heard about yet, but clearly there's two of us at least that are seeing that happen. And so that is one of the things I think that, you know, the technology and the fact that most of us are comfortable using it now really is something that we ought to be prepared to utilize more to connect in the course of the year. And which kind of feeds into the second thing that's in my mind anyway, about all the groups that I love dearly, because I've been studying human network science now for a few years. And the thing that I think is coming to me is the way that that the network function of groups really does open up some dynamics that we don't really know yet how to use them well. But I think it's coming to the point where we really could be utilizing some of this science about how groups operate, how they can be effective, how they can have greater impact. Those kind of things really can be used by us. And I think that network function of Quakerism that we've always had really could become a conscious focus in a way we don't quite use it yet. And so thinking about us as a powerful network just really is kind of one part of the future that I can see our region changing in a lot of ways that could really benefit a lot of the issues and the situations in our world that I think that we care most about.
Yeah.
I'm Pam Arnold from Baton Rouge and Bayou Quarterly, which is New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Houston. And we've already started work on our theme for 2024. And one of the things we're doing is having brainstorming sessions about what the theme might be. So we've had these Zoom calls, which like Gladys says, is just making such a difference in our getting together and getting our work done. But the thought came to us that maybe our theme should focus on what it is that the young people would come here for. We come, I think, mostly because we love each other so much and we get to see each other. But we're aging, and like we're all talking about this, because I'm hearing it already here just since yesterday. Who's gonna pick it up? Who's gonna do it as we keep dropping dead? And so one thing that we did as a quarter, we invited young people, like to 35. And we invited them to a Zoom meeting, and we had a conversation. We had, Rich, how many? 7, 8? About 7 or 8 young people came, and we asked them, why were they at Quaker meeting? What made them come back to just their monthly meetings? And we started getting some feedback that we could tie into this bigger picture. And it was very interesting to hear some of these things. One person said, young people are not going to come to camps like you old people do. Okay, what do you suggest? And they had no suggestion. So we wrote that down, that they said it, but we haven't gotten anywhere with it. And have it all online? Is maybe that where they were going? I don't know. But the point I'm trying to say is that we are working on that. We have addressed it. We don't have our theme figured out. We don't know if we're going to have another one of those open discussion Zooms again. We have a little time. But this conversation we're having here is important, and it's tied into that same thing. What's going to keep Rodney, Neil coming? Neil comes all the way from New York City to be a part of this, Well, is he going to keep doing that? Will King, not quite 30, came all the way from Vermont because South Central and Baton Rouge meeting, he's a member in our meeting. So is that how it's going to happen, that all our young people are moving away, so we just have to make sure they come back? I don't know. I'm mostly just saying that we are trying to think about it in a concrete way, and we've got the wheel rolling. Suzanne was at that meeting. Will was at that meeting, and we didn't come up with any great conclusions, but we do have the ball rolling.
Thanks, Pam. Will.
Will King, Baton Rouge Friends meeting. The first time I came to yearly meeting was 2020 on Zoom. The next year, I came on Zoom. Last year, I was still getting settled in New Hampshire, so I didn't come. So this is the first time that I've been to Green Family Camp and laid eyes on so many of you that I feel like I've known for a lifetime. I came to Quakerism because of the worship and being able to find within myself and find within other friends that which is eternal. But I stayed because of the people. And I keep coming back because of you. When I moved to New Hampshire, I got connected with a Quaker meeting there. And on Sunday, every first day, there are more people in worship than there are here at the entire yearly meeting. And that just felt so impersonal. I see a lot of people now with wide eyes, and that was me too. I was wide-eyed. This is so foreign to me. So being a part of a faith community here in Louisiana, in the South Central United States, even while I'm living in Vermont and working in New Hampshire, that's what keeps me here. That's what brings me back. And Gladys, I think you said the power of human relationships and the power of human connections. I feel that power. I feel that power here. But I also, like Pam said, recognize that I'm one of the youngest people in this room who will carry on having the yearly meeting here or there or wherever. But I know that as long as I walk this earth and as long as Way opens, I'll be here. And I hope you will too.
I'm Suzanne Cole Sullivan, affiliated with San Antonio. And this is a salient question for me because this morning I was just thinking about the friends who aren't here anymore. My first annual session was 10 years ago. I was so severely altered that year. I'm sentimental about it, but also like a little yikes. And two of the friends who did that are friends who can't physically be here. And I think aging hits different when your body hits a certain tipping point. And I mean, yeah, I don't want to relive that, but that was also a special time when I was a young, dumb Quaker. I'm still a dumb Quaker, just not as young. And I think that one of the questions that's affecting not only my Quaker service, but I also married a Quaker who had a conversion experience as a teenager, but was born to Friends, is what does Quaker service look like? And I think we have to change the paradigm of what being in service to our meetings means. And I don't really know what that change is. I just know that the way we are serving, Rebecca and I serve, is not the same as her parents served when they were our age. And the things that we and our generation have available are not the same as when y'all were in your 30s, because there are bigger asks in the world that are more available to us via technology. And there are more capacities available to us via technology. And I don't have answers. I know we want answers. What I have is that I think it's really important for us on both a monthly and a yearly meeting level to think about what service needs to do, and then we can build backwards instead of just saying service has to be XYZ. I see some of that beginning to happen. I was reading some of the Writing in Faith and Practice, and I think we're already walking down that path. We're already starting to ask these meta questions. But we have to abandon some of our fear, because shifting a paradigm that worked is terrifying. But I don't think it works anymore. We're just playing with different tools. It's like shifting from Tinker Toys to Legos. Tinker Toys still work, but Legos are way cooler and also more readily available. I think there is appeal in what we do. I'm not sure that we know how to sell ourselves, and I'm not sure we're selling our best product yet. But I sincerely believe that we have the grounded ability to do that work because I'm seeing it. And I keep coming back. I keep rearranging my finances to do this. And it's worth it to me. And it's worth it to my wife to move within the yearly meeting to be part of what we do. And she grew up in a very strong, very good, very big yearly meeting, Pacific, and has continued to find the same spirit here. And I love that. I love that we're doing that.
I also like to just mention that as a former young person, I'm now 44, so I'm in that in between, not young, not old, but it took years for me to be able to have time off. My first job, I had a week off of vacation, and I remember talking to someone and they're like, well, don't you want to go to yearly meeting? I was like, no, I want to go to Mexico and sit on a beach. I'm sorry. So it takes a while for a young person to establish a career to where they have time off, and not only have time off, but have enough time off where they don't have to choose between their family and here. So I don't know if the answer is wait till we all retire and then we can be more involved. I don't know. But recently at FWCC, they were trying to talk me into being the treasurer there. And I said, well, what does it entail? Can a working, full-time working person do it? And the retired person said, yes, you can. I said, well, okay, what else is there? She's like, well, you just have to do like the normal treasurer stuff. I was like, oh, okay. Well, and then you need to come to the finance committee meetings. And then you need to go to the executive committee meetings. And then and then I just laughed in her face. I literally just started laughing. I'm like, no, that is not something a working person can do. So, and sometimes, like, especially when I had that conversation about going to yearly meeting or a beach, they were very shocked and upset that I chose the beach over yearly meeting. But this is work. It's wonderful work, but it's still work. And I'm just grateful there are young people here as a new old person. I am so happy you're all here. So, and I guess that's all I wanted to add to that conversation.
Thank you.
At one of my first yearly meetings, I had a dream. And in this dream, I kind of found myself in this town that I identified as being North Carolina. And a bus had arrived, and all these people had gotten off this bus and were milling around investigating this town and very curious, interesting, caring people. And they were, in my mind, these were clearly Quakers. And I said, who are you? What is this group? How are you organized? And they said, we don't have a name and we're not organized. And that dream, which had been 25 years ago by now, has really, stuck with me. And it occurs to me today that what is precious to us is not South Central Yearly Meeting or our monthly meetings or Quakerism as an organization. It is a spirit, a nurturing, I can't really even put it into words, but it is a carrying on, living out, being faithful to the Spirit. And that what matters is not the continuation of the form, the organization, but that spirit. And that, like a tree in a forest, organizations die, but they transfer their nutrients to other trees, to other things that spring up. And so it could be that, it's other, we look for, where that spirit is springing up, that unorganized, unnamed life that is carrying on, and that's what's important. That it may not be our organization that continues. Thank you.
As someone who feels like they have one foot in each generation. So when I first started coming to Quakerism, I was almost but not quite 30. I was kind of put in the young adult friends, which surprised me because I thought I was a little bit older than that, but I was okay with that. Young at heart, so good. So I just celebrated my 50th birthday, and I find that in some Quaker organizations, I'm still in the young adult friends. And as much as I love and cherish that, at some point I would like to feel like I've earned some wisdom. I feel like I've reached that age. But the reason that I'm still in that group is because those of us that are under 50 are 10% of that organization. And I hear what the young people are saying, and I agree with them about so many things when they're, they've asked for changes there. I'm very pleased that this is being discussed, because in a lot of Quaker spaces, when I have said Quakers are aging out, I get a lot of denial and pushback. And so I really want to acknowledge how meaningful it is to me that this is something that we're looking at. And then the other piece that I would like to put forth is, as a predominantly white organization, if we start laying meetings down or organizational groups down, where does that wealth go? And are we looking at, we have, I'm just going to throw this out there, but there are meetings that have a meeting house that own property, and maybe they're down to a handful of people. Maybe not now, but maybe in 10 years. And what does it look like to sell that property, and where should that wealth go? And what is our history and how we've interacted with communities of color? I know, and I'm going to say this is where that generational divide is I hear people who are older say, well, I did this, and we did this, and we supported this, but they don't always see the places in which they put themselves in the front and center, and that there are hurts there. I don't have answers, but it is something that I see as a place for us to continue that work by looking at where we transfer our wealth to.
Dale Borderline from Dallas Friends. I came in on your last half of your last sentence, and 13 years ago, my 13-year-old son took his life. If I had the information that is available now, as a parent, I know he would not be gone. In 1962, on July the 8th, an article was printed, The Battered Child Syndrome. It divided the medical community. One group, thank God somebody has finally said that these children that are coming into our emergency rooms with all kind of broken bones and hematomas and do not match the story of how they got these injuries. The other part of the medical community, I don't know where you got your information, but I've been practicing for years and I have never seen any indication that a parent would do that to a child. It's taken a long time for our culture to assimilate medicine and law. We now have another layer that is even more profound, that is available, that we do not have in our conversation as a Quaker community. And that is the effect of trauma, adverse childhood experiences on developing children. The trajectory for some of those kids is prison, suicide, addiction, obesity, and lifelong health problems. And we're not even really talking about that. And to me, if you're a baby and you develop in a world that your biology does not allow you to play, to contribute, participate, it's a silent form of slavery to your own biology. And it is the people at Harvard, the guy that runs the program for the Early Childhood Development Center, said it is the single biggest medical problem in the world. Is how those babies' brains develop, the brain architecture sets them on trajectories. And I just wanted to let you know that I brought a handful of books about that subject matter. That one of them, The Deepest Well, by Nadine Burke Harris, is a great book just to kind of get caught up on the subject matter. And I know that everybody doesn't have time, and I'm not trying to push anything for anybody. I'm just sharing what's on my heart. And I just feel like if this were really embraced by our community, it would attract young people, because young people are the ones that are having babies. Not only does the baby need support, but the mother and the father and the caretakers need the support to be able to create environments for those brains. And it's really not hard stuff, but it is if you came from an environment that doesn't allow you to be with somebody and really just be with them. And that was me. I thought I had to be doing something with my kids. I found out that just being with children and actually being attuned to them, and what they call serve and return, when they look in your eyes and you look back, is actually creating synaptic connections in the brains that are fundamental to being able to learn, to think, your prefrontal cortex to develop. But cortisol, the hormone that's released in your body whenever you're doing fight or flight really inhibits the development of the brain. And there's also at Rotary this week, a lady came in and she brought a stack of things on the thing. It's called Parents as Teachers. And those are on the table close to the books. I bought the books. I don't need to be embarrassed. If you want to donate some money to the fund of the book library over there, bookstore, please feel free to do that. But the books from my end are there for the taking. And I want to thank you for the introductions. It's been on my heart a long time. It was in this room 8 years ago or 9 years ago that the story of us walking up and down the road, this story came to me about we're walking up the road and there's a river running by us and that there were babies in the water. And we jumped in and started saving the babies. And I looked up ahead after a while. There was a waterfall and it looked like the babies were still alive. And when I pointed out, a bunch of us ran up the hill and started pulling live babies out of the water. And then I thought, well, who the hell's throwing these babies in the water? And I turned around and I said this to the safe group. I said, who's throwing these babies in? Maybe we should look. And everybody was so busy getting the babies out of the water. Nobody even turned their head. And so the next year I was sitting in the seat again, and the second part of this showed up. It was, you guys, it fell in my heart that you guys, somebody had in their heart they needed to do something. It didn't create a demand on somebody else. In other words, you take your own lead. And so it kind of freed me. And I thought, because all my life before, when I had an idea and I thought I needed to do something with it, and I couldn't convince anybody else to go, I didn't go. And you guys shared with me something that allowed me to go. Well, I'll see y'all later. And I just went, I've been trudging upstream. And I think I found where we're throwing the babies in the river. And for those of you that can hear this or are willing to dig a little bit for yourselves, I think there really is something for us to do as a community that would completely change our demographic. Thank you.
I sort of feel like we need worship after Dale shared that. Thank you, Dale, for feeling safe enough and loving us enough to be present with us. Thank you. I have two comments based on things that other people said. I'm still Pam Arnold from that meeting. I know I'm supposed to say that first. The note I wrote down here when Shannon was talking a minute ago about time off from work. I think that many of us have really just sort of forgotten about that reality for a number of reasons, and not just because many of us are retired. Even as we got older, we realized we had options that the younger people don't have. And an example of this was back in the 90s, I was in the insurance, working in the insurance business, and Danny and I were married, and he had he'd been at Exxon forever, and he had many weeks vacation, and I only had 2 weeks vacation, paid vacation in my office. I had an opportunity to go to Bangkok, Thailand to escort an elderly friend of mine. She had a son who was the head of the design department of Jim Thompson Silks. And it was a fabulous trip. And so I went to Bangkok, Thailand for 1 week because I couldn't donate the 2 weeks of my vacation to this trip across the world because then that was short dandy. And I was even then too young to think about taking a second week of unpaid. And I could have done that, but the idea wasn't even something that was approachable. And I think our young people, they're not in a financial, many young people are still living at home or, you know, whatever. And many young people don't even have that option of being able to take a week of unpaid vacation. When I came back from Bangkok, and it hit me that I didn't have to come back. After 1 week, I could have stayed. It was too late. I was already back. But that was a lot of money and a lot of time and a fabulous trip. And our host, Gerald, Ethel's son, I mean, we had chauffeurs and cooks, and we could have done all kinds of stuff. So I really thank Shannon for bringing that up, because we need to realize that even though we have money available for scholarships, maybe we aren't pushing that. Maybe we're not talking about it. Maybe spiritual enrichment, which has a lot of money, needs to be promoted in our monthly meetings so that these young people who have to take off unpaid days to come here to be spiritually enriched, maybe that's a way that fund can help our young people. So again, Shannon, thank you so much, because I think we're so far removed from that I think we just hadn't thought about it. The other thing that I put a star by in my notes was human connections. And Will talked about that and how important it is to actually lay eyes on one another. Our meeting in Baton Rouge is real small, and they are so tired of me telling them how wonderful the friendships are that I've made over these years. And yeah, okay, Pam, but I keep telling them anyway, because I keep hoping that I'm going to entice at least one other person to come find out about it. Human connections, human relationships. Ministry and care this year, and this new coming up, one of the things we are going to approach and do is more interaction with our monthly meetings. Because so many people are on Zoom for worship, we're going to start visiting monthly meetings for worship as ministry and care people, and really try to nurture those relationships, put face together with names, and I encourage everybody to do that, whether you're on a committee or not, to think about going to other worship with other meetings at their times. Oklahoma City meets at 6 o'clock on Sunday night. So I can do morning worship in Baton Rouge, and then I go home and take a nap, and then I can get back online at 6 o'clock. And in one day I've had, you know, all that. So that we need to really think about that and put that into our calendars to reach out and get more human connections. And when the people at San Antonio and the people in Dallas start seeing us, and the young people who are there realize, well, it's been around for quite some time. And you too can come from New York City to be a part of us, or Vermont, or Atlanta. So I just want to say that word from him, it does already tie into what our committee is going to be doing. And you don't have to be on our committee to do the same thing. And then I'm going to try to be quiet because I do like to talk.
Denise, and then I'm sorry I don't know your name. Louise, and then Howard.
Denise Wilkinson, Friends Meeting of San Antonio. we started attending SCYM in our 30s, and I now found myself older than some of the people that when we started attending, who I viewed as older seasoned friends, they were younger than I am now. So I am now. I will say that it has been very encouraging to me to hear from some of you younger friends today. Suzanne's no longer in the room, Will, you are, but I feel more hopeful having heard some of you speak now than when I first came to yearly meeting. And what I want to say to anyone, I don't know, loosely in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever qualifies as younger now, is please keep talking to us. I mean, I also find that in the position I am, that I catch myself sometimes being rigid, kind of in the, well, that's the way we do it mentality, right? I find myself and I catch myself. So when am I not catching myself? If I'm catching myself, sometimes I know that means there's times when I'm not. And I am speaking out of my 65-year-old head who's been doing this for 30 years. You know, I'm kind of sitting here thinking that as clerk of yearly meeting planning, I'm going to reach out to some of you younger folks to say, what are we doing wrong? Or what do we need to, not wrong, but maybe what do we need to do differently? How can we help you? Not just, you know, yeah, that's specific to this event, but in other ways too. So I'm sorry if we didn't, but please keep talking to us and don't, you know, I mean, I was thinking about it, yearly meeting planning committee that's been meeting. I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest person on the team and the only one that's not retired. We need some input. So just thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Louise?
Thank you. I have a little testimony that kind of relates to everybody's from Dale. I'm a therapist. I'm 77, so I don't see very many people. The people that I do see are about my age or not very much younger. And I am aware, it becomes the subject of the therapy, that they have experienced multiple traumas themselves and have never told anyone. That also was true in my family. And I think that that puts an artificial, it makes it hard for the younger people to talk to the older people, but I think sometimes might make it hard for the older people to hear the younger people, especially if the younger people do have trauma. And I myself started worship when I was 17, as soon as I could drive to a meeting house. And that also ran in my family because my mother was a Quaker, even though she had too much shame to go to a meeting. So there's a lot that goes on that we need to pay attention to inside ourselves, in each other, with the younger people and with older people. And I love you all.
Thank you. Howard?
Some of you may have noticed that earlier I told Bill I'd go and find Ann so she might be able to come and give her report, and then I didn't come back for a long time, and that's because we were with the kids and we couldn't get away. And that leads me to remind you about Youth Program Support Committee. We're always looking for folks to be with the kids. This is an important ministry, especially given the idea that not only are there time constraints because of work on younger adults, but there are time constraints because of kids and providing a space for their kids, and it kind of has a snowball effect. If you get more kids to come, more kids will come. So we're rebuilding that, hopefully after a couple of years of not meeting. So I also just encourage you even today to talk to Ann or me about, we still have slots where we want folks to be with the kids if you're at all let to do that. And on a hopeful note, in Austin, we now have a clerk who is in his early 30s. And he, I think, might have been coming, although he was planning to tent it. And we also had another couple in their late 20s, early 30s who was coming, but they had a death in the family. Austin is starting to get, so it's a delayed effect. If you start getting younger people in your monthly meetings, which Austin now is doing, it's going to be several years before they're going to show up in the early meeting or at the quarterly level. I think that's important. But I just want to say that I hope we can help pull more babies out of the river and work upstream as well.
Thank you, Howard. Val?
Val Live Oak Friends Meeting of San Antonio. When I came to yearly meeting the first time in '86, I had just begun attending Friends Meeting of Austin 3 years before that. And I was in my late 30s at that time. And what drew me to that meeting was a palpable sense of welcome and love. And what drew me to yearly meeting was that as well. And it has been a touchstone for me since then, however many years, 40 some odd, whatever. I'm not going to do the math standing at the mic. So I think, you know, there are many questions and many challenges, but I can't think of one that love isn't the answer. And most of us, well, some of us have a capacity of just knowing it, but a lot of us need whatever contact or words or touch or inspiration that we can get from others. And I grew up in a home where touch and expressions of love was very uncommon. And so, and you know, maybe I was swimming. But it's very important for me to be able to have that. And I cherish the times when I know younger people enough that I can kind of send a little love beam to them, but I don't put as much effort into it as I might, because I'm so busy soaking it up from the I already know. So that's to encourage us all to remember that. And I guess one thing I would say to young folks is my life has been a path that has been different from what most people in the culture did. I developed a professional career and let it slide out of my life and decided that by living very simply and at a very low income, I could have time to do the things that I thought were important. And that's not everybody's choice. But if you make it your choice, you will find a way. And my experience has been that friends will help you. So if there's any possibility that you could take that unpaid leave, or that you could take a leave of absence for 6 months to do something that really means a lot to you, but you don't know how to do it. There are friends who know how to do that. And I volunteered to help anybody who has that question. One thing I would say about the history of this yearly meeting is back in the day when the meeting started meeting over Easter, Easter were holidays for school. It's not anymore. And I am wondering if we would get more families with children if we found a time in the summer. And I know that would mean we'd also have to find another place. So it's a long-range thought, but I think it's worth remembering that almost all the other yearly meetings in the US and Canada, as far as I know, meet during summer vacation. The only other one that meets like we do is Southeastern Yearly Meeting, Florida, which has a age group that I suspect looks a lot like this.
Thank you. So, friends, I'm aware of the time. I would like to, I think it sounds like we've cracked something open here that is worth continuing. And, you know, I think, you know, we'll get reports in and we'll use, you know, excess time to continue this discussion. I also know that there, you know, are friends who, you know, can't immediately speak to something. They need more processing time. They need, you know, time to season things. So I want to be able to honor that. So we'll continue, you know, this discussion tonight. We'll probably open with a couple of reports and do that. What I'd like to do now, though, is have Denise do the yearly meeting planning committee report. She needs to get back to the registrar's desk.
Denise Wilkinson, Friends Meeting of San Antonio. I'm here to give the 2023 SCYM Yearly Meeting Planning Committee report. This report represents the work of the SCYM Yearly Meeting Planning team. It's not just the people on the committee. It includes not only the members of the Yearly Meeting Planning Committee, but also this year, representatives from the Cielo Grande Quarterly Meeting Adult Program Planning Committee, Tech Events Committee, the Youth Program Support Committee, along with this year, Karen, for several years, had participated as the clerk and so site coordinators, AV coordinator, registrars, communication manager. We met online 7 times in the past year to prepare for this meeting. And I just really want to be clear that a successful yearly meeting depends on the hard work of all of these people. So if you know, various individuals, if you can give them a little love, this weekend, people, a lot have worked hard. Okay, after a successful blended meeting of both online and in-person sessions for yearly meeting 2022, we decided to, again, you know, propose the blended format for yearly meeting 2023. And this consisted of, consisting of online-only Zoom sessions that we had from Sunday through Wednesday, in addition to our in-person time here right now, Thursday, April 6th to Sunday, April 9th. And the proposed format and the schedule were approved at representative meeting in November 2022. Some of the in-person sessions at GFC are being made available virtually again this year. business meeting, the keynote speaker, and the faith and practice forum. They'll be viewed only online, but online participants can submit questions or comments via chat. The worship yesterday and the upcoming worship Sunday and the final business meeting, they will be fully interactive online. Worship sharing and night owl worship, for both of those, there are both in-person and online groups. And online fellowship has been available during meal sessions, as far as I know. Zoom's been open for whoever wanted to participate. Other responsibilities of the yearly meeting planning team included developing the yearly meeting schedule, as it always does, developing a proposed COVID policy for 2023, which we updated to reflect, current realities, and making sure that test kits, masks, and cleaning wipes are available, since we're still dealing with things, and just in generally ensuring that other details of yearly meeting activities were attended to, making sure all the pieces come together. The committee clerk extends sincere gratitude to each and every member of the team for their dedicated work throughout the week.
Any questions for Denise? Thank you. Any announcements, home groups or at 11, do we know where people need to go and that type of thing? Okay, let's get home groups first. Liz.
Awesome. Liz Wolf, Dallas Friends Meeting. So there are 3 scheduled home groups, and Jimmy Pryor's on standby if we need to make a 4th. But they're in. If you signed up for one, please go where you said. But other than that, there's one in the rec center 2, which is right across here. There's one in the sports center theater, which is on the right-hand side of that building. And there's one in admin A, which is in the building behind where you eat, so it'll be very close to lunch. Thank you.
And Pam, you have an announcement?
In addition to the State of the Meeting reports, which were turned in, we had 11 meetings send in their reports, and we printed them out and posted them on colorful paper. And they're back there on that wall. So you don't have to wait till the proceedings comes out. You don't have to go online. If you want to do a in-person observation of the reports, you can do that while you're in this room. Preferably not during business, but, back there, mounted on the wall.
Thank you. Jessica?
Carol, Redfield, Crystal, and I have been, Redfield also, and I have been creating a game all year. It's a bingo game. We'll have it in the dining room. So if you're an adult, what you do is you take your card and you try to find a child who can answer some of these questions, and they'll give you a sticker. And if you're a child, there are no children here, but if you have a child, they'll take their bingo card and try to find an adult to answer questions. One child or one adult might not be able to answer an entire thing, but if you get something across or up and down, we have prizes for you. So this is a game that's meant to get people interacting with each other.
In the dining area, against the far wall, there's a table with a big piece of paper on it. Our theme is finding spiritual refreshment for the long haul. And we're asking people just to write how they find spiritual refreshment as legibly as possible, but you're fine to do it anonymously, or you can sign it if you wish. We will be using that for the fireside chat tomorrow. So if you will, go look at that and find a brightly colored pen and write something. That'll be something we'll have to work on.
I'm sorry to say that tequila was the first thing that popped into my mind, but I won't write that down. If there is a fourth home group, do we know where it's going to be? Okay, thank you. Is there an epistle?
The Epistle of France Yearly Meeting, October 2022. To all our friends throughout the world, this year we spent a weekend together in a spirit of exchange and communion at the Domaine de la Razat in Sète by the Mediterranean Sea. We gathered with the purpose of exploring how we can open ourselves up to the inner voice and ways in which we can be guided by the Spirit. This gathering was made special by the fact that it was followed by events held in a place to mark the bicentennial of the Quaker House, the one in South France. The current geopolitical context in Europe led us to a discussion of peace on the continent. For this occasion, we invited representatives from EMES FWCC, QCEA, Friends House Moscow, and Quaker United Nations to give presentations. Through these, we learned of various actions being taken by European Quakers, notably in response to the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. We are inspired by the spirit-led actions of these different organizations, and our thoughts are with them and our friends in Eastern Europe who have been agents of aid and peace during this time of conflict in Europe. The question foremost in our minds was how can we continue to foster our peace testimony in times of war. Upon arriving at the Quaker House, we were warmly welcomed by our friends and residents, as well as by others from the local community. What a joy it is to find ourselves together in this charming place, replete with history for the occasion of its bicentennial. A lecture given by Patrick Cabanal to an audience of 120 friends and local residents plunged us into the history of the Protestants in the region. This, along with the presentations by Jean-Paul Charbonneau and Edouard Germain, made clear the spirit of resistance and resilience demonstrated by these 17th century Protestants. The first French Quakers, in particular, were led by the Spirit to confront violence with nonviolence. The power of the Spirit can manifest itself anywhere, even in the face of adversity.
Thank you.